Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are still staying positive and safe at home. I'm quickly going to use this video to explain to you how the balancing of chemical equations work and how to use two different methods to help you to balance the different equations. So the first reaction that we're going to look at is number 3 from your homework, where phosphorus reacts with oxygen. So step number 1 is to rewrite the equation exactly as it is to balance it. So rewriting it from the page, phosP4 reacts with O2, which forms the compound as the product. It's a quick recap from grade 8. Everything on my left-hand side are called my reactants, and everything on my right-hand side are called my products. Now, step number 2 tells us that we need to go count the amount of atoms of every element on my left-hand side as well as on my right-hand side. So let's have a look. On my left-hand side, I have phosphorus and I have oxygen. And on my right-hand side, I have phosphorus and oxygen. I'm just going to draw a line in the middle of the page where I can do method number 2. Method number 2 is where I will be explaining by drawing the different atoms. For example, I have a molecule of phosphorus and I have a molecule of oxygen. They react with one another to form the following compound. We have 2 phosphorus and 3 oxygen atoms. Note that they are all touching one another. Sorry that I'm not drawing perfect circles. I'm trying to draw on a tablet. It's quite difficult and something new to do. Now let's have a look. Counting the amount of atoms, I need to do the following. I need to go have a look at the little numbers at the bottom. Remember, if there's no number, it means that there is only one atom of that specific element present in that specific section, compound, or element. So, phosphorus on my left-hand side, I have 4 phosphorus atoms. And on my right-hand side, I have 2 phosphorus atoms. Where do I look to know whether or not there are how many atoms there are? I look at the bottom. There's 2 atoms of phosphorus on my right and 4 atoms of phosphorus on my left. Now I need to do the exact same for oxygen. Oxygen, I have 2 on my left and I have 3 on my right. Now, if we have a look at method number 2 here at the bottom, we can also go count it to see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 phosphorus atoms, 2 oxygen atoms, and then on my right-hand side, I have 2 phosphorus atoms and I have 3 oxygen atoms. Now we need to go have a look. How do I go balance these equations now? Now that we can see we don't have the same amount of phosphorus atoms or the same amount of oxygen atoms on my left or on my right-hand side. The following step, I need to go put a coefficient in front of one of my molecules or compounds to go balance it out. Just something that you must remember is that you cannot say I'm going to add 2 molecules of phosphorus on my right-hand side or take away 2 phosphorus atoms on my left-hand side. Because in an isolated system, such as chemical equations, we cannot simply add or subtract different molecules or atoms, because that will change the entire chemical reaction, meaning it will create a new product instead of the compound that we currently have. That is why I also drew the reaction for you, is also to show it to you. The only way we can actually go and balance it is by not adding, but just letting more either oxygen or phosphorus atoms react to create the product. So that is the way we balance it out. Now let's have a look. I have 4 phosphorus atoms on my left-hand side, and just taking note of what I just said, I may not take away 2 of these atoms. On my right hand side, I have 2 phosphorus atoms, but I cannot just add 2 phosphorus atoms. Now what do? Not very complicated. All I do is add another compound of my product, meaning I'm first going to draw it. I'm going to add an identical compound of 2 phosphorus atoms and 3 oxygen atoms. So now, if I go count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 phosphorus atoms, and my oxygen, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 oxygen atoms. Now how do I go right to this that I have 2 compounds of this? All I do is I put a 2 in front of my compound. So in other words, if you don't understand the method below, I need to go ask myself, 2 multiplied with what will give me the 4 atoms of phosphorus? So 2 multiplied with 2 is equal to 4. And then the 2 is also multiplied with the 3, so I don't have 3 atoms of oxygen anymore. I now have 6. So if we go have a look, our phosphorus atoms are balanced now, but not our oxygen atoms. But on my right hand side, I have 6 oxygen atoms and not 3 anymore. So what I do now is I need to go add some oxygen atoms so that these oxygen atoms can react with the phosphorus to create these 6 oxygen atoms for me. So I'm first going to do method 2. Where I had 2, I need to have 6 now. So I need to add 2 more pairs of molecules. So then instead of 2, I now have 6 oxygen atoms on my left, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, meaning that my oxygen atoms on my left hand side is balanced with my oxygen atoms on my right. And the same with the amount of phosphorus atoms. Here I have 4 phosphorus atoms. On my right hand side I also have 4 phosphorus atoms. Doing method 1 again, I need to go ask myself, 2 multiplied with what will give me the 6 oxygen atoms from my right? To do that, I need to say 2 multiplied with 3 will give me 6 oxygen atoms. So this 3 that I wrote here will be my coefficient for oxygen. And that is how you balance a chemical equation. Just one thing to note is that if you do not understand the method, but you do already know how to write the different coefficients in front of the molecules, you do not have to write these methods for me, which I'm drawing a purple block around. You don't have to draw them if you already know how to balance the equation. This method methods that I gave you is only a crutch, basically your training wheels, to start doing the balancing of the chemical equations. So please, if you do not understand but you know how to do the methods, I do encourage you to please use these methods to help you. I cannot care less if you write for every single equation, if you write the methods, but I would prefer that you only use one of these 2 methods and not use both, in order not to confuse yourself. If you have any other questions, please message me. You do have my number, and good luck.